What's up, homies? Welcome to Bullman Photography. Today we're going to be talking about color slide film.
It's motherfucking game time!
So let's start off by talking about what color slide film is and why it's an interesting and unique type of film. So as opposed to color negative or black and white negative film, slide film produces a positive image. What that means is that the colors are not reversed in any way. They're just as you see them when you're taking a photo. So it produces a positive image as opposed to a negative image where the colors are reversed and then are reversed to what you would see normally during the printing process. So basically, slide film was meant to be projected and shown in that sort of fashion or viewed on a light table rather than being printed. Although a lot of photojournalists did shoot slide film and it was printed in magazines. For instance, Robert Capa shot a lot of his magazine work for Life and Time on Kodachrome and Ektachrome slide film in the 1940s and 50s. Now, I find slide film really fun to shoot, and it's something that's definitely worth trying out if you've never shot it before. There are only about 5 slide films left on the market today, though. The first one is Fuji Provia 100. There's also Fuji Velvia 100, Agfa CT Precisa 100, Rollei Digibase CR 200, and Rollei Crossbird, which is only available in 120mm. I'll have more information about all of these different film stocks in my blog post for this video, so you can check out the link for that in the description. Kodak used to be one of the biggest producers of slide film, and they had 2 very popular lines, Ektachrome and Kodachrome, but a few years ago they discontinued these and they no longer make any slide film anymore, unfortunately. Now, if you're shopping around for slide film, it's important to know that it goes by a few different names, so you should check the label on the box. It might also be called color positive film or color reversal film, or sometimes even E-6 film, which refers to the development process. Now, you may be asking yourself, why should I shoot slide film if I could just shoot color negative film or digital, for that matter? And I think it's really worth shooting slide film for a number of reasons. The first reason is it's a lot of fun, but beyond that, it has a really interesting look and the colors really pop and they're very beautiful. You could, of course, try to emulate this with like film emulation presets or something with digital, but it's really not the same. And getting those slides back and being able to look at them and see the image right there on the film is something that's really cool. Another advantage of slide film is that it has a very fine level of grain, so it's not going to look as grainy or pixelated as something you shoot on color negative film most of the time. And I think that creates a very, it gives you the opportunity to create a very crisp and beautiful image on film. Now, there are certainly some drawbacks to slide film, and I think we should talk about them. The first obvious one is the exposure latitude. It's very narrow, so you really have to know what you're doing and know how to meter a scene and be able to get your settings right to nail the exposure, because if you go too much overexposed, things quickly fall off to white, and if you go too much underexposed, then you end up with sort of a black frame and all the detail, it just falls off. So that's something that's really something to consider. It's one of the reasons why slide film is often referred to as professional film, because it's something that's really tricky to shoot. But that's something that's easily overcome. If you know how to make a good exposure, you'll be able to make good exposures with slide film. Another major drawback to slide film is the low speed of the film. Most slide film is somewhere between 100 and 200 ISO, so you're pretty much limited to daytime shooting. Anytime after dusk or nighttime, it's going to be really hard to get a good exposure with the film. I think one other important thing to note too is that it's getting trickier to find places that will develop E6 film. So, for instance, here in Boston, I wasn't able to find any labs within the city limits that actually develop it locally. All of them mail it out. But you could find a lot of places that still you can mail your film to. I started using the Darkroom recently. They're in California, and they do a pretty good job with developing slide film. So you can still find places to develop it, but it's getting a little bit harder. And with that in mind, I think it's really important to start shooting slide film now. I think now is a really great time to shoot slide film because we do still have several options available. We don't have as many as they did back in the 80s and 90s, but it's still something that you can get into fairly easily, and it produces some really great images that are just one of a kind in my opinion. So let me know what you think. If you've shot slide film before, leave something down in the comments. Let me know if you like it or you don't like it, or if you have any questions. You can also go to my website at danbullman.com and leave me a message there. And like I said, there's a blog post that goes along with this episode, and there's a link in the description. So with that in mind, we'll see you next time.